Now, for the most fun in the world, joining us now, America Report's co-anchor Sandra Smith, America's Newsroom co-anchor Bill Hemmer, two of my best friends and two of Fox's best.
We spent a lot of time together, you know.
You guys are the best. You did a fabulous job, Mr. Hemmer, last night. You had a little trouble finding New Jersey, but once you got on it...
I had to phone a friend.
I'm going to take you on a ride. I grew up in New Jersey. All right. Sandra, your take.
Mitch McConnell just said it. He was on our air on the Fox News channel a few minutes ago, and he said 70% of Americans said they don't like the direction the country is going in. Glenn Youngkin had a very simple message on kitchen table issues. And he's a genuine guy, a business guy, understands the impact that COVID has had on its state and the policies that have been implemented in that state. He took on preaching a lower tax environment. He obviously made this about schools and education. He himself told Bill and I, because we interviewed him yesterday morning, that he didn't make this about left and right and Democrat and Republican. He brought together those suburban moms and dads by telling them, absolutely, you have a say in your kid's classroom. I mean, it was a simple message. And Mitch McConnell also just was asked by Martha, would you say what we saw from Glenn Youngkin should be a strategy that others in your party should follow? And he said 100% yes.
You talked a lot about that, looking at the numbers from the data. I'm an old Reagan Big Tent Republican coalition person. That's the way I learned the politics. I think you were pointing that out. Not only did Youngkin hold the Trump areas, but he built up strong in areas that Trump and the Republicans have lost in the past. So does that make sense to you? Is there a bigger tent coalition in tow?
Quite possible. 12 months is a long way to go. I think 12 months ago, you probably would not have predicted what we saw last night, what we're seeing today in New Jersey. It's hard to find an area of that state where Youngkin underperformed. I really hit all of his numbers and did it quite convincingly. But I was listening to the commentary there a moment. You talked about competence, and I think competence goes to management. And earlier today on with Dana, we were just talking and just going over a lot of thoughts over, the past 24 hours or so. And Larry, there's this soundbite that keeps coming back to me from last winter. I think it was March or April, perhaps. And it was a voter, and this was like they're going to expand the Supreme Court, they're going to get rid of filibuster. American Rescue Plan just passed at $1.9 trillion with barely a fuss or a wink of an eye. And this person said, I voted for Joe Biden, but I didn't vote for this. And I think that's kind of wrapped up in what you were saying about cancel culture and racism and all the progressive leanings of this administration.
People are saying, they're kind of saying, don't mean to interrupt, but I think they're kind of saying, stop. No, stop.
Larry, you know what they're saying?
You're going too far. This is not what we wanted.
Because people are using the word referendum and repudiation, as you just did, Larry. And the only thing else I would throw in there, perhaps it's not that. And perhaps it is Democrats who thought that they had some landslide victory in 2020, and they overplayed their hand. That's the point the Wall Street Journal made in that piece you sent me. President Biden ran as a centrist who would unite the country, but has governed by bowing to the left on nearly everything. And you say stop, Mitch McConnell just said the same thing. He says he believes when it comes to the spending bill, especially because he said if they passed the spending bill, Democrats would have lost worse.
It was a runaway government, and I think we're seeing the brakes being put on here. I would characterize it, I'd say, put down the fork and knife and push yourself away from the table. Just hang on for a moment here.
Sure.
I mentioned this competence issue here in management. What can we say that Joe Biden has managed effectively over the past 10 months? All right? Supply chain. Why is no one in the Port of L.A. saying, how do we fix this? Why is that? Why is Pete Buttigieg doing his Sunday interviews from a D.C. studio in Washington? On gas prices, why are you pleading with OPEC to pump more oil? On inflation, why are you looking to spend trillions of dollars more, which may dig the hole deeper? Afghanistan, why do you make a hasty, disastrous withdrawal? All this goes into, do you pay attention to the detail that is required to do this well? Same thing for the 2 visits to Capitol Hill over the past month. You went to talk to your caucus, and we thought you were going to put your foot to the floor and get them to vote for it. It was 0 for 2. Again, the detail is critical when it comes to these big-time issues, and voters don't see it happening.
So I think I think a lot of this is about Youngkin, who really ran quite a good race. A lot of this is what Bill Hemmer is saying, what you're both saying, about the problems with Biden and the overreach, the ideological overreach, and the management ineptness of the Biden
But I just wonder if there's
administration.
going to be a wake-up call, right? I mean, that's what Elise Stefanik said in that GOP news conference today. Question is now whether or not Democrats will wake up. And we've seen Senator Joe Manchin step up and say, no, I want to see how much this thing's going to cost. Bill, talking about tossing around ideas, Bill and I yesterday were talking about who else is standing silently behind him. And if I may, your team cut this because Senator Mark Warner stepped up to a microphone today really quickly, and he said this, Larry.
Virginia senator.
Yeah, listen.
I'm worried, not just in Virginia, I'm worried across the country. We've got to show that we can deliver in a pragmatic way that affects people's lives.
So are there more of him?
Here's Manchin. Here's Manchin. This is unbelievable. To see what went on in Virginia, and then not to just from the governor's race, but all the way down the ticket.
Yep.
A good bit of change has happened. Can I just emphasize the ticket? The lieutenant governor, Jamaican immigrant Marine
Amazing story.
businesswoman, okay? The attorney general, Latino.
Cuban American.
Cuban American. And they even, you know, the icing on the cake, they took back the lower house in the Virginia state government. But that's a ticket. That's a, you know, really, it's almost like check the box.
Yeah.
But this was the Republicans checking the box. That's got to send a signal to somebody.
I mean, you put the list on the board there about the demographics that they're pulling in here. I thought Chitterelli had the quote of the night. He said, we've sent a message to the entire country. Every single time it's gone too far off track, the people of this state, New Jersey, have pushed and pulled and prodded it right back to where it needs to be, end quote. Now, he may not win, but who had him separated by half a point the day after the election?
Yeah.
And Murphy, Phil Murphy, who I know and rather like, I had good dealings with him in the government, but he was immune. He was very arrogant about the criticisms, especially on the tax issue. He almost gloated. You know, if the ad ran 1 million times, Chitterelli's ad, with Murphy saying, if you're worried about personal taxes and business taxes, something, New Jersey's not your state. I mean, that's not exactly listening to the taxpayer.
You know, you talk about years, a long time in politics, but just watch. These are such tangible issues the American people are dealing with right now. We're about to come up on Thanksgiving. You heard Kevin McCarthy today said, we're about to have the most expensive Thanksgiving dinner ever as Americans. It's costing us more to fill up our gas tank, so pack up the family. You're going to be paying almost $1.50 more per gallon to fill up your gas tank. And if trying to fly, you don't know if your flight's going to take off, and you don't know if your Christmas presents are going to arrive on time. So there's going to be some pain over the next few months that voters are certainly going to feel. And by the way, I just want to make this comment on Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears, because she was just on with Martha a few minutes ago. And she looked in the camera and she said, look at me, especially after we saw the race card stunt that was played on Youngkin in that state. She said, I'm one step away from the governorship in this state. Don't tell me I'm a victim. Was her message.
Oh, right. Love that. Love that. You know, years ago, way back in 1993, Steve Forbes and I came in and helped rescue a race. Christine Todd Whitman was 20 points down in New Jersey.
On my show tomorrow,
And you're having, she's coming on?
Yeah.
That's great. So give her my best regards.
Sure.
Steve and I came in and redid her campaign message, turned it into more of a tax-cutting message, and she won by a huge majority of 1 percentage point. That presaged a GOP takeover of the House and Senate in the next year, 94. And then back in 2009, Chris Christie won in New Jersey, and actually McDonald won in Virginia, and that presaged a Republican House takeover in 2010 and 2012. So I wouldn't say this is nothing. I mean, Democrats are dissing this today. They're crazy.
At their
the
own
handwriting's on the wall at their own risk.
You know, I think about some of the tremors we've had in politics. And remember the night Eric Cantor got beaten in that primary?
Yep.
I mean, whoa, right? Remember the night AOC beat Joe Crowley?
Yep.
Who is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez? Right? We all know now. Last night was 2 times that.
Yeah.
And it may portend what's coming up next year. Mitch McConnell said, look, I mean, this is a forecast for what could happen in 12 months. He's banking on that thing.
And they're going to bank on education. I mean, if you listen to the Republicans today in their victory lap, Kevin McCarthy, we will soon unroll a parents' bill of rights. Elise Stefanik, Republicans are now the party of education and parents. I mean, how many issues do you have out there where you can unite both parties? I mean, these are real deal issues.
I'm going to make a prediction too. In New York City, okay, I had an hour's lunch with him last Friday. Eric Adams, new mayor, okay, African American. First of all, he was a registered Republican at one point in his career. I'm going to make the case that he's the Republican in the race. He ran for the cops, for school choice, against taxes, and against the socialists in the Democratic Party, which in New York proliferates. That is a Republican message, okay? And he's going to create a coalition, wait and see, of moderate Democrats and Republicans, but more than that, businesses, parents, right, cops, to rewrite New York, which has gone so badly off track.
You're making the case that Adams sees where the crease is in American politics now.
And he's challenging his national party. He basically ran against his national party's socialist wokeism. He just ran against it.
Well, if he's successful at that, he's going to be the man of the moment.
He's the man of the moment.
He will get the attention that the country will, that he'll deserve from the rest of the nation.
So I'm in such a happy mood. I'm in such a great mood. I can't stand it.
Do you know how much help this city needs?
Yes.
A lot.
I do.
You're going to need a massively dynamic person in order to do exactly what you're describing.
Look,
I hope you're right.
I hope so, too. And, you know, look, I think the whole country in the post-pandemic period needs good leadership and good policies. Common sense policies, okay? We're not against business. Not everyone is a racist or a white supremacist. We can disagree with civility, you know, and a lot of the old labels. I mean, I'm telling you, here's this African-American Democrat borough president in Brooklyn. He sounds like a Republican. And here in Virginia, you have a ticket that you would think would be tailor-made for the Democratic Party, checking all the boxes. Wrong. It's Republican. You're the best.
McConnell's just said it. Voters are tired of recycled, divisive politics.
Ooh, good for you. That's the cap.
Right?
You're going to get the last word for this entire segment.
Hemmer, do I ever try to get the last word?
Just got the last word.
This doesn't sound like me.
And Bill Hemmer, many kudos for last night. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it the way you whip around with those things. Holy cow.
It was really good.
Thanks to both of you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Larry.